Ciao, mi chiamo Edoardo, ho 19 anni e sono uno studente e spesso mi interrogo su come andrà avanti il pianeta e guardando la televisione, internet e i giornali mi chiedo l'inquinamento dei mari, lo spreco di risorse e la paura che le persone vivano senza avere la certezza su cosa mangeranno e se farà loro del bene. Di tutto questo mi preoccupo e credo nel potere delle idee e proprio per questo sono qui oggi con Seed&Chips e mi rendo conto che cambiare direzione è possibile. Il nostro futuro dipende dall'importanza alle nuove idee. Noi abbiamo il potere di cambiare le cose e con Seed&Chips avremo questa possibilità.
Ci siamo. Buongiorno a tutti, è un piacere essere qui oggi. Buona mattinata, grazie a Seeds&Chips per questa opportunità. Porto un punto di vista dell'IBM oggi. 6 minuti mi date? È già diminuito? Perfetto. C'è scritto 6 lì, c'è scritto 6. Mi hanno detto 15 ma c'è scritto 6. Va bene, allora partiamo. Io in IBM lavoro in IBM da 21 anni e mi occupo in questo momento di cloud, intelligenza artificiale e innovazione applicata sulla piattaforma cloud. Quindi oggi parleremo di intelligenza artificiale e come l'intelligenza artificiale può aumentare l'intelligenza degli esseri umani e delle aziende per cogliere le opportunità che ci vengono offerte oggi. Solo un'unica pagina di scenario, questo non c'è veramente nulla di nuovo, lo stiamo vivendo tutti quanti in aziende nuove, in aziende che arrivano da anni di storia, lo stesso tipo di disruption. Stiamo parlando di una pressione che c'è sulle aziende senza precedenti, pressione che porta a nuovi modelli di business, disintegrazione delle supply chain così come le abbiamo conosciute per anni, domanda, pressione sui costi, domanda sui clienti, come servire i clienti, come ingaggiarli, ma alla fine in tantissime industrie la domanda è chi è il cliente finale? Sono le piattaforme digitali che servono i clienti o è il cliente in quanto tale? È un'esperienza del consumatore che vogliamo andare a indirizzare oppure dobbiamo parlare con degli intermediari? Quindi tutto questo mondo sta cambiando. L'elemento vero di novità è che dietro questo cambiamento c'è semplicemente la tecnologia. Due fenomeni tecnologici che hanno cambiato completamente lo scenario competitivo mondiale, creando pressione e creando opportunità. Noi ovviamente siamo più interessati alla parte delle opportunità. Due fenomeni tecnologici che sono l'esplosione dei dati, e questo è un elemento, è una constatazione, non c'è nulla di nuovo neanche qui, dati di qualunque genere, strutturati, non strutturati, immagini, video, suoni, c'è di tutto, da un lato. Dall'altra parte una interconnessione tra strumenti che è diciamo, pervasiva. Entro il 2020 gli analisti parlano di 34 miliardi di device che saranno interconnessi. Tutti gli strumenti di tecnologia interconnessa. Questo cosa ha creato? Ha creato l'affermazione a partire da qualche anno delle piattaforme digitali, dei giganti digitali così come li conosciamo. E quindi giganti digitali in ambito commerce, in ambito cloud, in ambito blockchain e via di seguito. Dunque bisogna chiedersi in questo scenario come si può giocare, sia come aziende nuove, sia come nuove aziende, start-up che si affacciano su questo mercato. Ci sono questi due fenomeni. Da un lato c'è questa esplosione dei dati e dall'altra parte la capacità degli esseri umani all'interno di un'azienda o di un sistema aziendale è lineare. Quindi si apre una forbice tra una crescita esponenziale e la capacità di apprendimento degli uomini. Come fare a chiudere questa forbice? Come fare a far sì che le capacità, le competenze, il savoir-faire, l'esperienza, i dati, la conoscenza all'interno delle aziende possa essere aiutata per prendere e cogliere in pieno l'opportunità offerta da questa esplosione di dati, da questa interconnettività pervasiva? La risposta è l'intelligenza artificiale. Ok, cosa intendiamo per intelligenza artificiale? Nient'altro che tecnologia. Noi nel mondo IBM la chiamiamo Watson. Intelligenza artificiale, Watson, tecnologia. Che cos'è? È tecnologia capace di contestualizzare un contenuto, è tecnologia che interagisce in linguaggio naturale con l'essere umano, è tecnologia che apprende dall'interazione. Questa è l'intelligenza artificiale. Nient'altro che tecnologia che si applica in alcuni domini, qui abbiamo evidenziato quelli principali, il mondo della parte della conversation, il language, lo speech, la parte di sentiment e tone analyzer, quindi la parte di empathy, la parte di discovery e quindi tutto ciò che è legato all'interazione dell'essere umano. Ovviamente la premessa è che dietro ci sia una capacità di elaborazione di una mole, di un volume di dati gigantesca. Ma questa è tecnologia. La tecnologia ha valore soltanto se troviamo un fine che deve essere un fine per creare un profitto per le aziende e un mondo migliore. Quindi la nostra visione, la nostra strategia è che l'intelligenza artificiale vada applicata alla capacità di ingaggiare nuovi clienti, per rendere più efficienti le aziende, per aiutare ognuno di noi nella propria professione, per aumentare l'intelligenza delle aziende. Quando noi prendiamo tecnologia di intelligenza artificiale, Watson, e la decliniamo per aiutare le aziende, allora si parla di intelligenza aumentata.
It's ready.
Please, God.
What will you say if I told you there is an app on the market?
We're past that part. Just demo it.
Okay. Let's start with a hot dog.
Holy shit.
Yes!
It works.
Oh, motherfuck!
Huzzah!
Jin Yang, my beautiful little Asiatic friend, I'm going to buy you the palapa of your life. We will have 12 posts, braided palm leaves. You'll never feel exposed again.
I'm gonna be rich. Fuck you, Guilfoyle. Do pizza.
Let's do pizza.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's that.
Not hot dog.
Wait, what the fuck?
Eh?
That's it? It only does hot dogs?
No, and a not hot dog.
Ok, questa non è intelligenza artificiale. Comunque, cosa chiedono i clienti consumatori? Chiedono un'esperienza personalizzata. Chiedono consapevolezza delle loro abitudini sanitarie, della salute, consapevolezza rispetto del loro tempo, trasparenza che vuol dire conoscenza di tutto ciò che c'è dietro il cibo, la tracciabilità della filiera del cibo e sostenibilità intesa come sostenibilità del pianeta e rispetto per le risorse naturali. Da un punto di vista aziendale, da un punto di vista dei brand, sono 4 le dimensioni che sono rilevanti: la dimensione del customer engagement, la dimensione della differenziazione, l'innovazione e l'efficienza. Andiamole a vedere una per una.
Boodschappen doen was nog nooit zo makkelijk.
Mooie bal. Gehakt, 500 gram. Flambrol. Toiletpapier. Oh ja, speklappen.
Nieuw van Jumbo. Eenvoudig je boodschappen inspreken met de Jumbo-app.
Melk.
Handig, zo vergeet je nooit meer een boodschap. Download nu de app, want snel besteld is morgen in huis.
Kom eraan. Kom er.
Questo è un esempio di intelligenza artificiale applicata a un'esperienza di spesa fatto da un retailer olandese, Jumbo. L'applicazione Hello, è il motivo per cui prima abbiamo detto Hello, my name is Watson, è il nome di questa applicazione, è l'integrazione della voce, ma non soltanto. A partire dalla voce, l'esperienza l'algoritmo apprende, l'intelligenza artificiale apprende la storia della singola persona e l'esperienza diventa migliore col passare del tempo. Ottimizzazione quindi dell'esperienza, dei tempi, è raccontata poi in maniera un po' divertente in olandese con i sottotitoli inglesi per chi l'ha colta. Jumbo ha ottenuto 3 volte in termini di conversion rate, quindi moltiplicazione di un rate per 3 di conversion rate e di 2 volte della customer satisfaction. Quindi queste non sono soltanto implementazioni simpatiche, un gioco per i clienti, ma è vera conversione in business. Quindi un'esperienza diversa, integrata nei processi aziendali, quindi non è soltanto un'app a sé stante, ma integrata con i processi di e-commerce, con gli ERP, con capacità di poterci fare analisi, di apprendere, di creare delle offerte, delle promo mirate per le singole persone, quindi ingaggio a livello di singola persona. persona. Il canale è la singola persona.
Open your mouth.
Hi.
How long have you been single for?
6 months now.
3 years now.
Why? I don't know. That's a complicated question.
How would you define love?
Passion.
Agony.
It's that thing that people sing about all the time.
My ideal partner would be...
Secure.
I like them to be a combination of elegance and clumsiness.
What are your favorite flavors?
I like hearty stuff.
Love fish.
I love spicy food. I have really high tolerance to spicy food.
You have to feed each other.
Dunque, questa è un'esperienza fatta da Knorr, io credo bellissima, è una campagna di marketing e di comunicazione che ha avuto grandissimo successo, più di 1,5 milioni di persone che hanno utilizzato questa campagna. Perché parlo di utilizzazione? Che cosa c'è qua dietro? C'è qua dietro la consapevolezza della Knorr che si rende conto, un brand che è un brand come tanti altri, che non accede direttamente ai consumatori e contemporaneamente sa che il mondo dei millennials è fatto di ragazzi che vogliono i piccoli brand artigianali con un'esperienza personalizzata. Come fa Knorr a reinventarsi? Ecco, il modo in cui l'hanno fatto con questa grandissima campagna di comunicazione, integrando delle capacità di Watson, che ha fatto cosa? Ha di fatto profilato ognuno di noi, quindi chi ha avuto voglia di giocare, in base a 12 profili. Quindi il proprio profilo comportamentale con delle abitudini e dei gusti particolari. Dopodiché c'è stato il match tra i gusti e il gioco di fatto darsi il cibo, imboccarsi a vicenda. Questa è un'esperienza che da un lato ha consentito a Knorr di riposizionarsi, ha consentito a Knorr di raccogliere una quantità di dati e di informazioni sugli utilizzi dei consumatori che non avrebbe mai avuto tramite la disintermediazione col mondo del retail, e in più, devo dire, è una bellissima esperienza. Allora, abbiamo visto l'engagement, entriamo nella differenziazione, quindi il secondo elemento. Qui molto rapidamente, differenziazione in store, si passa dalla parte dell'insight. Insight vuol dire su una superficie fisica, pensiamo a un ipermercato in cui l'esperienza digitale è integrata con l'esperienza fisica e quindi le promo, le campagne che vengono ricevute dall'utente sono in funzione del proprio profilo, della propria esperienza, dei propri dati social e di dove si trova all'interno della superficie fisica. Tutto ciò ha aumentato di 4 volte il conversion rate. Servizi tipo servizi di self-service, notifiche via mobile sul luogo fisico, questo consente di fare efficientamenti molto importanti, eliminare le code dai vari banchi del fresco e quindi un'esperienza diversificata. La parte di operations vuol dire l'applicazione più ampia possibile dell'Internet of Things all'interno di un luogo fisico, quindi una serie di allarmi e notifiche in modo da dare allo store manager di fatto sul suo tablet tutto il controllo di quello che sta succedendo negli allarmi del fresco, allarmi veri, allarmi non veri, e ottimizzare, efficientare il punto di vendita. A questo, se aggiungiamo capacità di intelligenza artificiale come il riconoscimento delle immagini, allora si può vedere che il deterioramento del fresco, per esempio, può essere intercettato automaticamente invece che avere n cicli fisici.
When a customer shops in our stores, we know they expect great prices, we know they expect fast, clean, and friendly service. But an unspoken expectation is that they expect the products that they buy in our stores to be safe. If you think about the food system, it's pretty complex. It involves farmers, processors, distributors. And the way traceability is done today, each segment of the food system does it their own way. Most actually do it on paper or on systems that don't speak to each other. And so you can never have a full view of what's happening in the food system. What we hope to do with blockchain is bring all food safety system stakeholders and collaborate so that we do it one best way. We can do it very quickly and efficiently. Blockchain is a digital ledger that allows different segments of the food system to capture information about the product, what they've done to it, where that product has been. If we're linking that data with other data points, the Internet of Things. All that information will yield to insights that will allow us to have a safer, more affordable, and sustainable food system. But we don't believe traceability is the goal. We believe that transparency is the ultimate goal. Blockchain will give us the ability to not only track where food came from, but how it was produced. Was it produced safely? Was it produced responsibly? Is it sustainably grown? How many dates of shelf life are left on that product? The food system is a shared responsibility, and for blockchain and traceability and transparency to work, we need a lot of people working together. And so we're excited to be working with IBM on this blockchain initiative. But it's not just Walmart and IBM. We actually have some of our suppliers participating in this pilot. We've got some universities also participating in the pilot. And so we'll make sure that all stakeholders work together for a safer and better food system.
The food system is a shared responsibility. Questo credo sia il punto più importante che è alle spalle, è il principio che sostiene l'integrazione e l'implementazione di blockchain nella tracciabilità del cibo. Quindi non è responsabilità di Walmart, IBM, questo è un progetto che poi stiamo portando avanti insieme, ma è una responsabilità di ecosistema ben più ampia, una responsabilità sociale. Il secondo punto che voglio sottolineare di questa intervista è che non è la tracciabilità del cibo il fine ultimo è la trasparenza. La trasparenza vuol dire verso i consumatori in termini di qual è la filiera che c'è dietro il cibo e come arriva il cibo, non solo sulla sicurezza ma come è stato sviluppato. E quindi diamo le risposte ai punti di cui parlavamo prima, della sostenibilità, del rispetto delle risorse, della sicurezza e quindi un'esperienza completamente diversa. Questa è differenziazione che nasce da Walmart e che decide di riposizionarsi in maniera completamente diversa sul mercato. Arriviamo all'innovazione e stiamo volgendo verso la fine di questa chiacchierata. Allora, innovazione, abbiamo brand che devono reinventarsi continuamente. Mi piace citare l'esperienza di Bear Naked, è un produttore di muesli, in un mondo in cui ci sono dei produttori globali importantissimi, brand affermatissimi con volumi enormi nel muesli. Allora come fa Bear Naked a differenziarsi? Hanno creato un'esperienza individuale, in cui ogni consumatore può creare il suo mix di muesli. Hanno messo a disposizione più di 50 ingredienti che ognuno di noi può mixare come meglio reputa per avere la propria ricetta di muesli. Dopodiché c'è Watson Chef. Cos'è Watson Chef? È l'implementazione dell'intelligenza artificiale che è stata addestrata per un anno nel riconoscimento del cibo. Come è stato fatto? Con studio a livello molecolare di gusti e odori. Questo calato nel mondo del cibo e addestrato su specifici domini, ha portato a consentire 50 ingredienti mixati, Watson Chef che consiglia se il mix alla fine è un mix che risulterà gradevole oppure no, oppure suggerisce di scartare alcuni mix o raccomanda alcuni abbinamenti che potevano essere abbinamenti che a noi non verrebbero mai in mente, di ingredienti che naturalmente non abbiniamo, ma data la conoscenza che c'è alle spalle può essere fatto. Quindi Bear Naked che si reinventa con un'esperienza individuale e un'innovazione molto forte.
Ah, this is the life. This is what a holiday is all about. This is the holiday spirit. It's kind of hard to pin down exactly what the holiday spirit feels like, and even harder to describe what it tastes like. So when Virgin Holidays asked me to create the world's first spirit that tastes like how you feel when you're on holiday, I couldn't resist the challenge. But how do you make a recipe based on human emotions? Let me explain. Currently, 75% of the world's data is made up of our social media posts, sharing how we feel and what we experience. These days, it's all about us. So we enlisted the help of a machine that thinks like a human, IBM's supercomputer, Watson, and asked it to analyze millions of social media posts about how people felt on holiday and calculate the perfect mix of feelings. Then we asked it to cross-reference thousands of rum recipes to find ingredients and taste which we could match with the feelings. So that's how we got the world's first data-derived rum recipe. Clever, huh? So we got the recipe from Watson, and we needed to include flavors like vanilla and allspice and cinnamon. How do we get these flavors from rum?
So at Foursquare, we use white oak American bourbon barrels, and that's the primary source for that vanilla flavor. And then this blends, we recharge the barrels and use some older barrels, and in part of the blends here at Foursquare, that will start to create those cinnamon allspice notes.
Right. Ready for some rum?
Yes, I'm ready to give it a taste.
Yeah, let's have a try. Oh, that's amazing.
Io da grande voglio fare questo mestiere qua, il Global Room Ambassador. Uno, perché ci si diverte, è rilassato e potrei spiegare ai miei genitori finalmente di che cosa mi occupo nella vita. Ed è l'unico modo. Allora, questo è bellissimo, questo esempio. Parliamo delle Barbados, 15 milioni di turisti e di visitatori ogni anno. L'idea che hanno avuto, applicata al room agricolo che producono lì, quindi un prodotto che rappresenta l'intera nazione, è quella di studiare, quindi non è più soltanto Watson Chef, intelligenza artificiale applicata agli ingredienti, ma qualcosa di più. Analisi dei feed, dei social, di tutti questi 15 milioni di visitatori, capire la loro emozione, capire la loro esperienza, capire qual è il loro stato d'animo, abbinare al loro stato d'animo degli ingredienti, delle spezie, e quindi per banalizzare happiness uguale vaniglia o relax uguale cocco, cose del genere, abbinamento di questi stati d'animo, di queste esperienze per creare dei mix di spezie e rum che rappresentino la loro esperienza. Tutto ciò, siccome è tecnologia, poi ci vuole l'essere umano che validi quello che viene fatto, e qui c'è il maestro distillatore che valida gli abbinamenti e le ricette per creare delle esperienze che, devo dire, diventano davvero uniche. Ultimi 30 secondi, ultimo dominio, l'efficienza. L'efficienza vuol dire efficienza operativa. Vi cito solo un esempio qui, nota azienda produttrice di soft drink che deve distribuire le vending machine su una superficie, su una città, quindi le macchinette che distribuiscono le bibite, integrando dati di tipo demografico, dati di tipo meteorologico che sono fondamentali, le previsioni meteorologiche, integrando dati delle social, quindi che cosa le persone dicono, condividono. In funzione di questo, dinamicamente sanno dove posizionare le vending machine e come allestirle in termini di quali bibite e quali formati. C'è un concerto in questa zona della città, passerà un flusso di persone, i ragazzi si danno appuntamento in una zona, o si sa che andranno lì, le previsioni del tempo prevedono un sole torrido, e ovviamente aumentiamo le vending machine e il formato che è consentito per entrare, per esempio, nel concerto. Questa tipologia di integrazione di dati social, dati storici, dati demografici, dati di tipo appunto meteorologico, consente di creare degli efficientamenti operativi, oltre che creare un servizio, ma alla fine è business per le aziende che lo offrono. Watson, l'intelligenza artificiale applicato alle esigenze del mondo, è applicato per aumentare l'intelligenza degli esseri umani, consentirà di avere un mondo migliore, un mondo più sano, un mondo più sicuro. Grazie a tutti.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Johan Langebeek. I am a co-founder of the food pairing company. So I would like to address how AI is, how we use AI and how it's creating a better food system and good nutrition. So to give you a bigger picture, I will show you a bigger picture of our activities because it all has AI have impact on all the activities that we do. So I'm also co-founder of the Sequoia Ventures, Sequoia Group, and we grow startups enabling sustainable, healthy, but tasty nutrition. So we are an ecosystem of agile food tech companies, and we're eager to grow the next generation of health, sustainable, but most importantly, delicious foods. So the founder started this company to really have, this ecosystem of company to really have impact. That's really what it's all about. So if you want to have impact, you want to address big challenges. And so the big challenge that we would like to address is on the one hand, we have the food value chain, which is really causing a lot of trouble. It's out of balance. There are recent scandals in the meat sectors and symptoms of this that show that. So if we have global challenges like climate change on one hand and health issues on the other, our diet is really in the center of it. So if we want to change, food is part of the problem. As a consequence of this, we need to eat different. But nutrition is part of the solution. The problem with this is that if you want to eat different, people just won't do it. Unless the food really tastes delicious. And so this is why the whole group, the whole ecosystem of startups that we are creating is gathered around flavor. We have been digitizing flavor for the last 10 years now. It's not just, and we go much beyond. So if the products are really good, the flavor of the product is really good, you will have impact. Most importantly, flavor is also nutrition. In nature, flavor never appears without taste or without nutrition. Omega fatty acids have flavor. It's a very important element. So if we have flavorful products, the nutrition is also good. Maybe you know, in the 70s, there has been a disruption in the food where they separated flavor from the product. They could add drops of artificial flavorants where they could check every flavor that's possible. And that was a really big impact on the food. We are going back to the core, and we are creating a number of companies that use artificial intelligence in plant-based food creation. So we are growing seeds and using machine learning to make the best decisions in our selection of seeds. It's not GMO, it's just classical breeding techniques, but we use machine learning there and data science to come up with the best seeds. With these seeds, we grow a new generation of flavorful products, flavorful vegetables and greens, and there we create new meat replacers and dairy replacers with. We also think that if we want to help people to eat differently, personalized food recommendations are part of that. So we are creating systems, a recommendation system with at the core flavor technology to help making personalized recommendations. That's, I'm going to address more into detail which AI principles we use for personalized food recommendations. And then finally also we make the food chain very shorter, and we're investing also in on-demand instant food creation at home. Robotics in combination with artificial intelligence. So this has grown into a group of agile food tech companies with flavor at the core of the companies. It's really a new generation of food companies with technology and flavor at the core. That's really what it's about. Technology, meaning data scientists, IT people, really technology at the core. As you can see, there are 4, so I'm currently managing 5 scale-up startups, which is an extreme challenge. So at food pairing, I will address food pairing, and there it's our aim to become the platform for fun and delicious personalized recipes. That's our long-term goal. Why? Because we think we need to eat different, and we need to eat personalized, but you just can't ask people to do that. You need to gradually provide them recommendations which suit their needs, which suit their everyday nutritional needs, but also it has to taste really well. So the use case that we are powering is the following one. As you say, conversational commerce is there. What do I have in my fridge? I have salmon and I have beetroot. My flavor ID knows what I like, what I really, really like. We're one of the sole companies that have recommenders with a 71% accuracy. There's nobody else in the world has this type of accuracy. So my flavor ID knows what I like. Then the system asks, do you have basil or grapes? If you say yes, it generates a fully novel recipe, unique recipe. You have to understand, our company, many companies in the field are addressing this technology purely from a data science point. That's great, but it's from a data science perspective. Our companies, we are at the intersection of flavor, culinary, science, food science, and then also data science. And this interaction with culinary, one of the co-founders is a 3-star Michelin chef, really makes us that our generators create flavorful dishes that really make a difference. So it's about AI. I think we should be going more into depth about which type of technologies we use on which kind of principles we use in AI. And so AI is all about mimicking something what a person can do through a machine. I think that's basically what AI does. So which principles are we using? We are trying to mimic computational creativity. I think the first thing to understand is what is computational creativity. It's in fact a machine that creates new things exactly like the creativity of a person. So how does a person, the highest level of that is that you can create a fully novel combination. So what we use is combinatorial creativity. Basically, that means that you have human creativity works, you have a familiar object, and you place it into an unfamiliar setting. That's how human creativity works. So our AI system actually mimics this in a way that it enables to create, for example, a recipe out of these combinations, but with flavor at the core of the technology. Since 2009, we have been digitizing flavor. We didn't start from an existing data set of molecules. We actually have GCMS equipment. It's equipment which allows to look at all the volatiles into the food and detects this. And so we have one of the largest flavor databases in the world. We have 8,000 aroma molecules, 600 descriptors. It's massive. So we need a lot of data scientists also to manage this type of data. And on top of that, we use machine perception. This is the second principle next to computational creativity, machine perception, because we have input from the machine detecting all the flavors of a product, an apple, for example. But you cannot use this output to make recommendations, personalized food recommendations for a human, because it's machine output. The machine doesn't know anything about our food, how is the machine input be able to match this to a person. I don't know how a person perceives this. And this is exactly the principle of artificial intelligence. The breakthrough that we've been able to do is to go from machine input on flavor to go to what is the human perception of that. So we know what the human perception is if I analyze an apple through machine, how a human would perceive that. What are the flavor thresholds, how a human would perceive it. That's a real breakthrough that we've really pushed the boundaries there. And so with this technology that we know how a human perceives an apple, we are able to make combinations of other ingredients and able to create fully novel recipes that really taste well. And it's all about the end user and his ability to say, well, this is a great dish. Because artificial intelligence really needs to empower humans, empower his creativity, empower his nutrition standards, and this is what it's really about. So our algorithms, as I said, were capable of finding other molecules which are similar into the same foods, into other foods like strawberry and asparagus, what you normally wouldn't combine. We have algorithms calculating the possible combinations and giving you new possibilities with that. So I thank you very much. We are very fast growing. I think I have 20 open job offerings. So if you are in food tech and if you really want to be of a part of a growing ecosystem of responsible companies, please reach out to us and join the Sequoia group. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I hope you're all enjoying the last day and can find time to take a few minutes to go outside because the day is much nicer than it was yesterday. My name is Zachary, and I'm here on behalf of Cultovo. We are soft launching this new brand. I'm listed in the conference under Promethean Labs, and we're in a software company that maps and diagnoses crop threats, like diseases, weeds, and otherwise. So find me under Promethean Labs later. I'm going to talk to you about AI in farming and ag tech, and most of the work that's been done so far is around optimizing the outputs of farming and all the food that we need to produce around the world. And I'll give you an overview of what we're talking about here, and then I'll go through some technologies that are being used around the world in different crops and across different variables, and then I'll go through some of the challenges that we're going to have to get right, and then finally leave you with some thoughts about where we're going to go in the next few decades. We're here because of global challenges that we're all going to have to deal with, and it's going to take as many resources and new technologies as possible in order to accurately and quickly achieve the goals that we all are here to talk about at Seeds and Chips. And so artificial intelligence is a solution where we can achieve all of that and get faster, cheaper, smarter solutions that make sense for everyone. Just overall, sometimes we kind of lose the basics. AI is super hyped up, and it's hard to understand sometimes how everything relates. AI is kind of like an umbrella term. Underneath it, you have a few different pieces to it. There's machine learning, and part of that is computer vision, and that's the learning and the flexible intelligence that Johan was talking about, which is mimicking human intelligence that learns and is flexible and that can predict. And that's also applied across robotics and natural language processing, which also is used for analyzing emails or the chatbots that you see today. We use AI to model these threats. And so other ag tech companies that have been started in the last few years typically focus on different imagery platforms. And so either you have satellites, or you have drones, or airplanes, or ground-based units, and neither of them, or none of them alone, tell the whole story. And so we're combining them to tell that whole story. And so we can use that modeling in order to get the scale that comes with satellites, so we can do this across large areas of land, but we also get the accuracy that comes with ground-level data that's collected. We're mapping crops by crop types across South America with 89 to 99% accuracy, which is helpful for different parts of the supply chain outside of just production, like insurance or banks, that helps them understand better their business and how they're going to work with farmers. I'll get back to a little bit more about what we're doing in the disease and other threat modeling, but there's some other really exciting companies that are using AI in different spaces. Again, it's mostly about optimizing outputs and minimizing costs, and so there are different data sources that different companies have focused on in order to use AI. The big example in the industry that really kicked off a lot of the innovation and actually a lot of investment in ag tech companies was sold to Monsanto in about 2013 for about $1 billion, and that was Climate Corp. This modeling is from the US government. It's not Climate Corp, but they made sure that using historical weather patterns, that farmers were getting the best insurance that they actually needed, and that on the insurance side, they could be de-risking their claims to the farmers across different crops and different varieties. Secondly, this company, Blue River Technologies, they're an automated robotics technology company that was bought just last year by John Deere for about $300 million, and they were barely even commercialized. So the interest in this technology in ag tech and farming is so big that you don't even need hundreds of millions of revenue in order to be valuable. And they have a robotics machine that would go out into a field loaded with pesticides already, and using computer vision, be able to understand the difference between healthy vegetation and these threats. And it would spray specifically to get and manage the threats themselves, and so they're not wasting the pesticides or overspraying, which of course has many other problems outside of the business itself. This is some of the work that we're doing. We plug into existing imagery platforms or digital farm management softwares. This is a progression of disease modeling on wheat crops. Right now, some of the biggest farms, the most responsible ones, have a hard time understanding which diseases are out there. And so they spray multiple times, and we can help them understand what's there before they can even see it with their eyes. The other data source that lots of people are looking at for machine learning is stuff that goes into the ground, that is collected either to understand soil nutrients or irrigation so that you can be more efficient. Agron Solutions is leading this area. They're at the conference, so check them out if you have a few minutes. And lastly, genomics. This is a really cutting-edge, very topical conversation we're having around CRISPR and others. Microsoft has a product called Elevation that lets you be a lot more specific with that process while avoiding some of the adverse effects that are potentially out there. That all being said, there are challenges that we need to be aware of. Talent is a huge issue. Every industry outside of ag tech, whether it's advertising or financial services, are looking for the best talent in the world, and everyone's competing. And there's a very limited amount of people available to actually complete these tasks. And so it's going to be several more years before those two paths even out. Secondly, in the industry, there are a lot of big players, and the world is big, and there's a lot going on. In order to really address these massive global problems that are ahead of us, we're going to need some sort of consolidation to have big players so that you can get the level of aggregation and the number of data points needed to do the proper prediction and the interpretation of what's going on. Because, as you all know, agriculture is really complicated, and there are a whole bunch of things that are going on that you need to consider when doing this predictive work. And lastly, around privacy. This is also super topical. As you and I may be more concerned with our digital lives, with the conversation around Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, farmers are worried about their data and how it's being used. And companies that work with farmers need to be very aware of that, because farmers don't want their data sold to their neighbor to be used against them, or they don't want it sold or used for some of the bigger companies and sold back to them in the form of products. And so other companies are establishing joint ventures so that each party gets a cut along the way, or a simple opt-in or opt-out solution so that everyone's on the same page. But going forward, transparency is going to be of the utmost importance. And lastly, there's some other really interesting stuff that I think is going to happen in the next couple of decades, not necessarily in the next few years, but I think certainly will come up. The first of the two is getting an Amazon of agriculture. With this aggregation of data across all of these different fields and the variables, there's going to be information about what the farmers are actually going to need objectively. Lots of the data collection and the work that's being done on the farms by agronomists is very analog. And so lots of it is done by handwriting and notes. And so but that's changing. And we're going to get to a place where all of it is going to be more objective. And so based on those objective measures, the marketplace is going to be able to introduce products selectively based on what the farmers actually need. Just like it knows how, what kind of socks you like or what kind of books you want to read. The other thing is about robotics. And this might take a little bit more time, but eventually I think there will be companies that have robotics that can just come onto your farm and will know what to do with it without ever having been there before. And that that's alongside another trend in processing, which is edge computing, where right now lots of the computing and processing is done up in the cloud, and then it has to be sent back down. But edge computing is trying to move that processing as close as possible to the source. And so you can have faster and more actionable outcomes out of it. And so those two together, I think, are going to create these kind of farming as a service companies. I'm around for the rest of the day. I would love to chat more. I might have missed a few things. Love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think. There's my email address, and I hope you learned something today. Thank you.
Buongiorno tutti. I just want to say before I start, it's great to be back. This is my third time here. I think I've been here since the beginning. And a big shout out to Marco and Sharon Chitone, especially for putting the entire program together. She's amazing. And it's a really great thing to be here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Internet of Food. And, you know, we hear a lot about these big systems that are being developed, and they have apps, and you can get locked into the vendor solution. But let me take you back a minute to the World Wide Web. And remember World Wide Web? Maybe you don't get on it much anymore because you're in your apps on your phone. But that was what kicked off everything. And one of the reasons it kicked off everything is because of a language called HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how that analogy can be used to understand how AI is ushering in a new era for food and eating and farming. Zach, I love what you're doing. I actually built the first database system for the state of California to track pesticide poisonings among farm workers. It was not pretty, and we need to spray less. So I'm a big fan of those digital solutions. Please reach out to me on social media or email if you find anything here interesting. One of the things we need to consider when we think about building solutions is when we talk about climate change. You know, in the United States, we have a president who seems to think it's a Chinese hoax. But the reality is that the cost of doing business is going to have this built in. Swiss Re, world's largest reinsurance agency, has said now that insurance will cost you more if you do not have a climate mitigation strategy in your business plan with your supply chain. At the same time, Moody's is saying that if you don't have a climate mitigation strategy in your supply chain strategy, it's going to cost you in your credit rating. Rabobank is investing. CalPERS is investing. So we need solutions for dealing with this. But a food company doesn't necessarily think about addressing climate change. So they want to think about deliciousness, like Johan said. Delighted to be working with you guys about vocabularies, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So there's this concept of the singularity. Many of you probably know it in here, this idea that we're going to hit a point with artificial intelligence where we will trigger runaway growth and unfathomable changes. That sounds both good, that sounds bad, it sounds kind of creepy and Orwellian maybe. But the reality is the reality is going to change. So I'm going to make a prediction here that the singularity will happen through food. And it's going to happen through food because we all eat every single day. We have to. We don't have a choice. Right? And food touches every aspect of our lives. We deal with it with our culture. Right? We eat what we eat because we've always eaten it, right? We've already heard through this whole conference about the effects it has on climate and the environment. It absolutely plays out for our health and well-being. It's the reason I became a nutrition and food scientist. And like Johan said, the most important thing is things need to be delicious. If you want to change people's behavior, things have to be delicious. So this is Chiara Cecchini. She's with the Food Innovation Program, and she's also a fellow at IC Foods with us at UC Davis. And she gave a talk the other day, and I thought it was just beautiful. She said, cooks are the original hackers, and recipes are the original source code. And I think we're about to come full circle with that. And we're going to see that playing out here with food being how we reach the singularity and the Internet of Food and essentially the foundations for artificial intelligence that can touch all of our lives all the way across. So I mentioned earlier the hypertext markup language in the World Wide Web. Well, you know, we are building essentially, for lack of a better term to describe all of it, the hyperfood markup language. This is an open language that people can use to communicate food data that ranges from the environment, ag, food harvesting, food processing, diet, experience of food, and ultimately health delight, metabolomics, what have you. So this is an example of a markup of a tomato, and not just a tomato, that tomato right there. So we heard earlier about sensors, right? We heard it from IBM, sensors on the blockchain. Walmart's doing this tracking stuff, right? We've got sensors in the field, soil sensors so that we can see what's going on and we can make predictive analytics for the farmers. So that's great. We've got these sensors doing all this data. But, okay, so I'm going to buy your data solution and you're going to solve my problem for me. Great, but how do I communicate that down the supply chain to the next guy? How am I going to mark that up? How am I going to trade it with somebody else who's on a different platform and maybe we want to go into business together or something? We need a common language. And this is what we're doing at IC Foods. So I said for lack of a better term for the HTML because, I mean the HFML, and I didn't realize what FML meant. And when I told my student I was going to call it the FML, she said, no, you can't do that. So it's the hyper FML, apparently. And those of you who don't know, it's probably a bifurcation by age there. If you're over 40, you may not know what the FML is, but I'll leave it to you to ask. So what we're talking about here is actually ontologies. We are the Food Ontology Operability Data and Semantics Center. And we're talking about building ontologies here. And by the way, these are the backbone of what's driving Watson. But I don't think they want you guys to know what their ontologies are. Those are secret, corporate secrets. But we're building them open, out in the open for everybody to be able to use, to democratize artificial intelligence so that we can all build systems and have solutions and exchange information so that we're not vendor locked in to a single solution. And what an ontology is very quickly is this idea of a taxonomy. You've probably all heard of taxonomies. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, animals. I could do the same thing. I could classify types of water. Now I have 2 taxonomies, maybe a fish down here, a type of fresh water over here. And now I can link these together and I can say, this kind of fish spawns in this kind of water. That's called a triple. I can't help it. I'm a university professor, so I have to teach you guys something, right? So I'm just going to get a little bit technical, but I want you guys to understand this is an AI talk. I really want to get into the meat of this, right? So these ontologies link taxonomies of information, and we store them as triples, a subject, a verb, and an object, right? And that's how we can chain these together, subject, verb, object. That object becomes the next subject, verb, object. And we can make statements. And this is how we make statements. This is how we learn. This is how we do voice recognition, right? Vision recognition. We can build on these triples and triples of information. So we're building lots of different kinds of ontologies about food. Again, environment, ag, food processing, diet, and health. This is the food phenotype framework, right? So we talk about the physical properties of the food. How does it stretch? How thick is that sauce, right? All kinds of ways to measure that. The chemical components, we link to chemical ontologies that have already been built. Thanks to the petrochemical industry and the pharmaceutical industry, there's massive chemical ontologies already. Biological ontologies, I'm going to show you in a minute, of the gene ontology, the entire human genome revolution, the genomics revolution, would not occur without the gene ontology, which is an open vocabulary for tagging information about genes and what they do in your body and where they're located and how they work. And then we've got this one down here that's unique to food, the organoleptic properties, the aroma, the sound, the taste. Here, right? Sound, you're like, wait, my food doesn't have a sound. It sure does. When you bite into that apple, if it's not crispy, like you expect it to be, you'll probably spit it out, throw it away, you won't eat it again. You expect a sound with your food. You expect a sound with your food when you're cooking it. If it sounds too loud, you're cooking it probably too hot. If you're sauteing something. So we can use these vocabularies not just to describe a food phenotype, but all kinds of phenotypes along the way, right? So if I can phenotype a person, I can phenotype a plant, I can phenotype a bacteria, then I can phenotype a yogurt. If I can phenotype a yogurt, I can phenotype a dough. They're not so different. Stuff growing in them. It's moving, it's alive. It's got a metagenome of all the different organisms that are part of it. And if I can phenotype a dough, then most certainly I can actually phenotype a bread. It's just gone through a different environment. So now we've got a processing setup, right? So now we can actually categorize what kinds of processing steps combined with what kinds of ingredients result in a specific food phenotype. So we can enable prediction algorithms. So we can enable people to go build prediction algorithms. I don't want to build them, you go build them. I want to build a language so that you guys can do this. This is part of us democratizing the food system to enable commerce for people to have all kinds of businesses. So not only do we, by building this language, do we enable that kind of commerce to happen, we're enabling the collapse of scientific knowledge, the time it takes from scientific knowledge to make it into application, right? And we're working with libraries and academic journals so that when that scientific knowledge comes out, it gets encoded and it's immediately available in a structured data format for innovators to access. Right? So not only that, I can use those same vocabularies for annotating all the way back. Right? So we heard about from IBM about the blockchain. Right? So we've got sensors emitting data. I'm going to tag that with the standardized language and lay that down in a blockchain. That becomes an indelible record that nobody can mess with, and now I have a nice history. So this would be a history for a bread. And I can phenotype not just the dough, I can phenotype the flour. How finely did I mill that flour? And I could even phenotype the field in which I'm growing, which we just heard about. This is Tarini Naravane. She's a PhD student in my lab, and she is working on computable models of flavor. In fact, we've been having wonderful discussions with Johan's group about such things. And I just put some highlights up here to think about it, because we don't think about, thinking of computable flavor is really hard, and Johan did a nice job of breaking it down and explaining what's involved in this. But suffice it to say that we've digitized light and sound, right? And we've got waves, sound waves that we can describe, wavelengths. We've got timbre, we've got rhythm, we've got all different ways to describe sound. And now we're building that language to describe flavor. Flavor is a wicked problem, though. And part of the reason that flavor is a wicked problem is because of this subjective model. Because I can mess with you. Being a food scientist and giving you a food, I can put red food coloring in a white wine, and I can change your expectation and convince you that there's tannins in there, and you'll taste them, even though they aren't really there. So we have to be careful when we start putting organoleptic properties on foods, and we're not just talking about the subjective experience of a person. And that's part of the reason why there's always some miss when we try to predict whether somebody's going to like something or not, because we don't know necessarily about their moods or about their history with the food, their expectations, and all kinds of other variables. Wow, that's coming in really slow. So I mentioned earlier that the Human Genome Project is essentially based on the human genome, the gene ontology. So the gene ontology, I'm going to tell you a little bit, and I'm going to show you a little video. The gene ontology has three main branches. You saw how we had classes of information there in the food phenotype. Well, the gene ontology, which is fully developed and has been used for 2 decades now, not quite 2 decades, describes the molecular function of the gene, the biological process that it engages in, and the cellular location of where it's located. So we tag genes, and these tags of genes, we tag them with these words. We say, I sequence a new gene, I'm in a lab, and I'm like, wow, I found a new gene. I was doing this experiment on, mice, and when I cut out this gene, it like jumped all around, and so it's involved in hyperactivity, or who knows what it is, right? And so I tag it with the behavioral response and the biological process. I can tag it with all these terms. And in fact, at the National Institutes of Health, these gene ontologies are stored there, and all the annotations are there. And so researchers can go in and they can look and find genes that are interesting to them if they're looking for cures for Alzheimer's or whatever. So what I did was I gathered up, and I could do this because it's an open language, and it's essentially, because it's an open language, it's launched the entire bioinformatics revolution. I went around and I gathered up all the gene annotations for all the human genes since the beginning of the Human Genome Project. And I graphed them. Now, we often think about, okay, I have a database of things, and I'm going to annotate each thing with this word. And so I have like a spreadsheet, and I just put the word next to, okay, gene this tag, gene this tag. But I thought, I'm going to do something different. Instead, I took the ontology tree, and instead of annotating the table and the terms with the genes with the terms, I said, I'm going to annotate the ontology tree with the genes. And we'll see how our knowledge grows. So if you could hit play down there, I think it's in the bottom left corner, we can see something here. The bottom left, yep, there's the play, yeah. All right, so these little guys shooting arrows, those are databases. That's Mouse Genomics Informatics, UniProt. So this is where the deposit is being made in an international database of the knowledge of that gene being associated with that term. So this is the growth of our global knowledge about genomics happening right here. The clock's ticking. That's when the deposit gets made in the database, right? And this is all the biological process, the molecular function. Whoop. Oh, here we go. We're going to zoom in, look at a few. And now we're going to see some little explosions that happen, right? So it's going to like, right? And what happens is there's some discoveries in HIV, bam, right there, right? Immune response. And then we see the same thing up there in the extracellular region, immune response. And down here we can see it's antigen binding. That's the molecular function. That's a biological process. And that is the cellular location. And this is the growth of our knowledge about genomics. We can't do this yet for food. Won't it be freaking amazing when we can? And we can start linking not just biological data, but we can link it with the farm. We can start seeing which agroecological methods can I use that are more sustainable, that actually make people healthier and deliver tastier food. It's going to be awesome. So we're building this knowledge base across essentially landscapes, which I mentioned earlier, the environment and the agricultural production, right? The whole value chain through the food system once it's post-harvest, and even the consumption. In a couple months I'll be keynoting at the International Conference for Nutrigenetics and Nutrigenomics, because that's where I really like to spend my time. So thinking about personalization of foods, we need to know your genes actually give rise to a fair amount of what you might like or dislike, or what would be good for you or bad for you. I keep getting told that I should eat more kale. I don't want to eat more kale. I keep getting told that I should take 10,000 steps. Well, when I eat more kale, you know what happens to me? I'm what's called a stone thrower. So kale's full of what's called oxalic acid, and I don't happen to metabolize it very well. And what happens is I make kidney stones. I don't know if any of you have ever had a kidney stone, but they're not a lot of fun. Not only do I make kidney stones, I make calcifications throughout my body. In fact, in my big toes. So here I've got the government telling me that I should eat more kale and take 10,000 steps. So I'm getting arthritis in my toes, and you want me to walk around on them all the time. please just stop. We can do better than this. We should not be doing this greatest good for the greatest number BS anymore. We have the tools. We should focus our energy on building these tools. So one of the things that we are doing is we are working with GODAN, the Global Open Data for Ag and Nutrition, which was started by the G7 finance and ag ministers, to open up government data sources and to develop exchanges so that we can learn from each other's big data about ag and food and nutrition. So my group leads the alignment of the vocabularies of the biggest bags of words about food at the EFSA, European Food Safety Authority, the FAO, the WHO, the WTO, the USDA. It's a pretty fun phone call. And everybody just gets on there and says, yeah, I got this bag of words, I got that bag of words. How are we going to line them up? And so we're lining up these authoritative words so we can develop this global language that we can start to compute over. And these are just some of the sort of vertical ontologies that we're building that need to happen. This is part of an NSF grant that we have for building a smart connected food shed, right? So think watershed, not tool shed, right? So we want to answer the questions of what do we eat, where does it come from, what do we produce, where does it go, and what gets wasted along the way, right? And right now, we're just pulling people together, like who's, what, oh, you do what? Oh, great, come join us, join the conversation. Let's just get everybody in the room together. We're also building a foundry for all of these ontologies. So the oboe foundry is where the gene ontology sits, and the protein ontology, and the anatomy ontology, and the every single biological ontology pretty much that exists and is standardized is in the Open Biological Ontologies Foundry. And I said, that's a great model. Let's use that for food. But we have lots of things that don't relate to food. We have food machinery, right? So, but now I'm not going to show you a picture, but we've started making ontologies of food processing and food machinery, which is not biological, so it doesn't belong in the oboe foundry. And when we start annotating machinery, we can start saying, oh, how much energy does that piece of machinery use? How can we link, okay, which industries are you in? Which machines do you use? Now we can really quantify how much energy you use, how much effluents are involved in that process. Where is that waste stream going? What's coming in? So people talk about wanting transparency and traceability, but when you start getting down to that level of detail, it starts kind of invading their business model, and it remains to be seen how much people are going to want to share. I can tell you, though, that the artisanal producers who are producing food really want these vocabularies. And they really want it easy to use because they want to compete against industrial ag and say, gosh, you know, I don't use all of those pesticides. I massage my cow 4 times a week. You know, I treat my animals really well. Whatever the case may be, they are making amazing food because they're taking that extra care, and they want a platform and a language that they can use to describe that in ways that are unambiguous and people will understand. And currently, that doesn't exist. So we've got this sort of authoritative vocabulary alignment that we're doing with the government and large international NGOs. And then we have these essentially these knowledge verticals where we're linking across these various areas. And these actually line up with working groups that we're building where we're looking for people, innovators, to join us. So startups, C-Corps, governments, and NGOs, all of the above, to be part of these working groups to develop the language that we need for a real internet of food. And we're building a tool to make this easier. I didn't want to try doing a demo on this stage because it's not really set up for that, so I threw some screenshots in here. But the idea is that this is a vocabulary, and I could drill down into it just like you were seeing there. And I can load up various ontologies, and I can start doing alignment across different vocabularies. I can traverse into different concepts. And one of the things you'll notice there is there's a URL for that cooking process, and every definition, every term inside of an ontology has its own URL and its own definition. By the way, I should mention that GS1 is also going to be on the call. I'm pretty excited about that. And we can just start lining these things up, just even by hand, just saying, oh, these two things are related. You know, in this case, this was an antioxidant in a food ontology linking to an antioxidant in a chemical ontology where we have a lot more information about the kinds of antioxidants that are available. So we, boom, all of a sudden there's an explosion of knowledge. So details about that, you're probably not going to need to know that. But anyway, suffice it to say that we're building this tool for people to align their vocabulary systems to be part of this very highly diverse Internet of Food and, for lack of a better term, the hyperfood meta markup language. Maybe it's the HFMML. These are some of our students. It's me, I lead the group. Tom Tomich is one of my co-PIs, and he's also the director of the Agricultural Sustainability Institute on campus. Jim Quinn leads the Information Center for the Environment, where they do a lot of GIS and spatial analysis of just environmental things. And Nick Anderson runs research informatics for the entire health system at UC Davis, including our hospital and medical center and our coordinators. I didn't mention Kimi Taji earlier, but she is building an ontology of eating and all the different ways that we eat. So what's the difference between a meal and a snack? Oh, it's a meal. What kind of meal? Oh, it's a feast. Oh, what kind of feast? Is it a religious feast or a secular feast? Right? And now we can start drilling into these cultural aspects of food and how we are actually using and eating food and understanding culture a little bit better. So thanks very much. Just throw it up here. We have a conference every year as well. It's a little bit smaller and more focused because it's all about building the Internet of Food. It's going to be happening in San Francisco and Davis, November 2nd to 5th of this year, and I hope you'll all join us. Thanks very much.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you to Seeds&Chips for having me. My name is Kishan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Dishk, or a Bangalore-based food tech startup. So I'm so glad that Dr. Matthew Lang went before me, because he's laid the foundation for what I'm going to talk about. And we're certainly looking forward to working with him and his research group on some of the things that he just talked about. There we go. So just a quick intro. Not going to go into the details, but just to say that our entire core team, we've tried to build a team that is entirely had industry experience. We're all big foodies at heart. I worked at Just Eat in 2011 for 3 or 4 years, and then my entire team have worked across the spectrum, FMCG companies, restaurant chains, and other food tech companies. So we're all passionate foodies, and then hopefully you'll see where we're going with this. So why did we start Dishk? And it goes back to something that Dr. Matthew Lang said. He said that ultimately, whatever you eat, to change behavior and habits, it has to taste good. And of course, we've all eat 3 times a day at least, and it doesn't always taste good. Sometimes it tastes average, sometimes it tastes terrible. And we've kind of got used to thinking about and accepting that that's just the way it is. And for me, that was kind of some of the things that I used to think, why is that the case? Why is it that we eat so frequently, and it's the most personal thing we do, perhaps, in all of our behaviors, and we do it so frequently, but it still doesn't matter that it's okay to have an average meal, whether you're cooking, whether you're at a restaurant, whether you're getting a delivery, any of those situations. So I thought there's something that needs to be done in the world of personalization, and how can data and technology essentially address this problem? And having worked at Just Eat, you could see that there was a ton of data being ingested by that platform, but we weren't doing anything with it to enable a more positive consumer experience, essentially. So how we think about personalization, and I'll tell you in a minute how AI can apply to this, is essentially there are 3 core principles to food choices that we think about in our technology. One is that obviously my tastes are completely personal to me. It's like a fingerprint. And so for me personally, I love pineapple on pizza, and that's often a divisive topic in nature. Number 2 is in terms of the actual taste of the food, when I'm making a choice, whether it's at a new place, a new restaurant, or at my favorite restaurant, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, ideally, I'd like to have something I love the taste of, but actually, the one thing I know for sure is that I do not want to have a bad food experience. We're all averse to risk on some level, right? And to that bad experience. And no matter how much I love pepperoni pizza or whatever my favorite dish is, I can't eat it over and over again. I need diversity and variety in the kind of food that I eat. So these are the kind of 3 pillars of how we think about consumers and choice. And so going back to that point, how can technology, data, and science come together to ensure that every single time we all eat, the food tastes absolutely delicious? We all know the benefit of having a great tasting meal, right? We feel great, maybe we're more productive, the feeling is awesome. And of course, being a foodie myself, of course, I can talk passionate about it. Many people eat quite functionally, but I'm sure even they would argue that having a great tasting meal can really change your experience. So what do? Essentially, we're a taste prediction technology company or flavor prediction technology company. And so our sort of bold statement is, can our AI, what we call our food brain, essentially know what you want to eat before you do? And so that's the challenge we've set ourselves, and that is a big challenge. And as you could see from some of the stuff you saw in the earlier presentation, how complex this world is. And so what are the factors that influence taste and flavor? Because of course, in order to be a flavor prediction technology company, you have to understand it to be able to model it. And of course, rightly, as was earlier said, there are 5 broad buckets that we've created, which are essentially, my sense organs, my biology, my taste perceptors, my mood going into a meal, how do I feel, and my values, and how do I come out of that meal, and how does the food affect my next meal? My ethnicity, and all of our ethnicities. So I was born in London, lived most of my life in London, but I'm of Indian origin, of course, and I've actually recently, last 4 years of my life, lived in India. How has that journey of my life affected my sort of cultural expectation, taste expectations of food? And we all have our own stories in that regard. Of course, the recipe, how it was cooked, what ingredient qualities were used, what particular quality of ingredients, where were they sourced, how long has it been since they were harvested from the soil? All these different factors affect taste. And of course, the real-time context. Who am I eating with? When was the last time I ate? The price, the weather, all these different things come into account. So essentially, this you could argue is our technology problem statement. And so at the core of it, we have this flavor prediction, flavor AI, or food brain as we call it. And there are 4 pillars to how it works. Number 1 is, with any kind of AI or machine learning model, as you probably know, you have to have a ton of data that you're feeding into the system and training the technology. And so we've built a proprietary data set. As you saw earlier, the data is everywhere, right? Sensors, academic journals, cookbooks, user-generated reviews, Instagram. Data is everywhere. And so can we ingest all of that data from all the different places and essentially interpret it, make sense of it, and create these ontologies? And so we have a food database ourselves, a recipe database, which we're continuing to build and grow over time. But the thing that we think is interesting about our data set is that it's perhaps one of the more richer data sets, in the sense that we have around 26 to 28 attributes per dish, everything from a cuisine origin to the aroma profile of a dish, to taste texture, to the dominant ingredients. There are so many factors that go into every single recipe that we have to understand. And of course, we partner with our customers and other data sources to get consumer data. So, if we were working with a Just Eat type company, they would give us your behavior data, your transaction data, and that allows us to implicitly understand your preferences in terms of ingredients, dishes, cuisines, flavors, and aromas. So that's what our technology does. It implicitly understands what you do and your preferences and affinities towards different things in the world of food. And of course, on the other side, I'm not going to dive into the food science part, but of course you saw all the kind of things that we have to take account of on the world of food science, which we partner with institutions and academia to essentially work with them and improve our algorithms. So let's talk about the commercial applications. You've seen a lot of the history and the background and all the complexity that goes into understanding this world of food and how complicated it is. But what can we do with it as businesses? And so some of this stuff is what we do, but some of it is actually kind of what could be done. So it's easy to obviously say that doing personalized recommendations or a recommendation engine, perhaps you can call it the Netflix of food, is something obvious to do and something easy in terms of this scale of complexity. And so that's where we are today as a company. That's what we have. But even then, it's presented with many challenges, as you saw, your mood going into a meal, your ethnicity. How can technology understand all of these things in order to make the right recommendation for you at that exact point in time? And so that's what we have today. Something that's coming up in the near future, and I think that this is far more powerful in terms of innovation, is can we use this taste prediction technology or this food brain to tell restaurants and FMCG brands what should be the next product that they launch? So giving them that predictive capability, the analytics and insights into that. So if you looked at McDonald's menu, and you've maybe consumed McDonald's in more than one country, you can see that no longer is it the same Big Mac, McChicken sandwich, filet o fish. I mean, they have those items, but the rest of the menu is entirely localized towards tastes. And they've done a good job of innovating their menu over time. But could our technology tell McDonald's what is the next burger they need to launch in every single one of their key markets? The theme of in FMCG right now is sugar reduction. Can we tell Nestle what's the next chocolate bar they need to build, which has obviously got a lot less sugar but tastes just as good as Milky Bar? And so that's what we're working on right now, and we'll be launching the beta for soon. And even further afield, something that really excites me personally as a consumer and has great consumer benefits is a universal taste passport. What I mean by that is today, if somebody's using our recommendation engine, let's say Just Eat is using it, but I don't just consume food through Just Eat. I go to the supermarket, I go to different restaurants that I like. So only Just Eat knows me potentially if they're using, let's say, our technology or somebody's technology. But how can everybody understand who I am, no matter where I go, no matter where I do my shopping, no matter which fine dine restaurant I go to, which hospital, wherever I go, how can they understand me? And so the concept of a universal taste passport we think is really interesting. Imagine us as consumers explicitly giving our permission, and it's an interesting topic for sure, given all the data privacy concerns right now, but imagine we were willing to do so, like the Google login of taste preferences. Imagine then that being available at all the platforms and all the places where I consume food. They can instantly personalize to everything that I like. Again, going back to that mission of having a delicious meal every time I eat. And so another application, another sort of taking this even further forward, is that I'm sure some of you have been to these restaurants, these kind of experiential restaurants where there's no menu, and they just ask you, what don't you eat? So, okay, I don't eat beef or fish. I don't like my food too spicy. That's what you tell them, and then they'll do a 4 or 5 course meal for you. And it's a bit of fun, and it's a nice experience. But ultimately, there's still going to be hit and miss in that experience as well, because they're just kind of removing the exclusions, but not thinking about what you actually love. And so taking that technology, like I said, one step further, is could there be a world where restaurants don't have menus, and they just know who you are and know what you love, and you can just walk in and eat whatever, and you'll get served to you. Those of you who have seen Star Trek may recognize that that kind of replicator technology was done shown in those TV programs. So also another application of this kind of food brain technology is, can we look to identify novel recipes and novel ingredients that go together with things that we love, for example? So I recently had a chat with some of the team at Nutella and Ferrero, which is the company that owns Nutella, and we kind of looked at what are the world of ingredients that are being used with Nutella? How are people consuming it? What would they like to change about it? How can we reduce the sugar level in Nutella, for example? And so our AI went and examined the world of all the ingredients, looked at Nutella as a product down to the flavor compound level, looked at the world of ingredients, and came up with a list of different ingredients that would go well, or different products that would go well with Nutella. Bread was #1, unsurprisingly, at 97%. And we all know that's true because that's generally how we eat Nutella. But what was interesting was that soy sauce was very high up on the list. And I'm sure there's probably unlikely to be anyone in the room who's tried soy sauce and Nutella. And they were equally, no one in that room that when I was talking to them had ever tried it. But we actually did a taste test internally at our company, And we were surprised, actually, it was pretty good, actually, together, with a bit of bread, Nutella, and different ingredient quantity levels. And so then we tried to validate what the AI told us. We looked into the world of social media and see, is there anybody already doing this? And sure enough, people in Asia, there are a number of them who are making noodle recipes with Nutella and soy sauce. So it was a fascinating experiment for us. And I think the point of this is that how can we engage with brands and create a new experience? And so that we can kind of, take our favorite products and do something new with them. And I don't know how clear this is, probably not that clear, so apologies for that. But there's an infographic of the world's most popular beer brands across every single market. I think it's the market leader in every brand at that point in time. And what our AI can also do is help to understand why these things are popular. Of course, marketing plays a big role in that, and we're not saying that it doesn't, but putting marketing to one side, from pure flavor and taste perspective, why is it that so many different brands there's very few repetitions, I think, if any, in that. Now, of course, some of them have the same parent company, but I doubt that the beers taste the same. So what is it about the taste and the local cuisine signatures of those areas and those regions that we can align and understand better? And how can that help us with new product development? Now, Heinz, obviously we all love Heinz ketchup. And in India, it's an amazing story. You can't have Heinz in India without chili sauce. Obviously, we all know that Indians generally like a spicier profile of food. But in a commercial sense, what do brands need to do to localize their products, their world-famous products, in order to be successful in markets? We've seen large FMCG companies exit countries where they haven't localized. I'm not going to name names, but that's happened. And so to stay relevant, what can AI tell you about local taste preferences and what you can do with your successful product set in terms of tweaks to formulation in order to make it more relevant to a local market? Going back to personalization and recommendation, it's not just about creating everybody having a delicious food experience, but of course for a business it's also about profit. And so you can see here from some of the results of our technology and our customers that are using our recommendation engine, you can see that it can impact your bottom line by increasing conversion rates, it can increase what people spend, and that can lead to ultimately, obviously, more revenue and profit. And the final thing I'm going to say is that our worlds, essentially, for us as a business, is a merging of the food world and the technology world. And I think this slide, maybe you've seen it before, it shows the real disparity that's going on in this industry. What can we do to make sure that the food businesses are spending more money in R&D, and how can we help them get a better return on that spend? So that's the final thought I'd like to leave you with. I'd like to thank you for your time. We're exhibiting at G28. Thank you for listening.